They told me I was safe here. That was the first lie. My name is Emily Harper, and I arrived at Briarwood State Hospital on a gray Tuesday morning wearing borrowed clothes and a bruise on my wrist shaped like a man's thumb. The orderly who drove me kept calling me ma'am like it was supposed to calm me down. "It's just for a while," he said, glancing at me through the rearview mirror. "You'll feel better once you're inside." I didn't answer. I was too busy staring at the building rising out of the fog. Briarwood looked wrong. Not abandoned, not active, suspended. Red brick stained dark with age. Narrow windows barred from the inside. A place designed less to heal and more to hold. When the doors closed behind me, the air changed. It felt heavier, like breathing through wet fabric. Something deep in my chest tightened, and a thought slipped into my head, fully formed and unwelcome. I've been here before. They took my purse first, then my phone, then my hair tie, my necklace, my bra with the wire in it. Each item placed in a plastic bin like evidence. A nurse with tired eyes handed me a hospital gown. "Go ahead and change, Emily." Hearing my name startled me. "How do you know my name?" I asked. She blinked. "It's on your intake form." I didn't remember filling one out. They gave me a wristband. Patient 317. Under it, in smaller print, was my name. Emily Harper. I followed them down a hallway that smelled like bleach, sweat, and something faintly metallic. Doors lined both sides. Each one had a small, reinforced window. Some patients stood behind them, watching silently as I passed. One woman pressed her forehead to the glass and mouthed something at me. I didn't understand it until later. Room 12. My room was narrow and bare. A bed bolted to the floor. A sink without a mirror. A separate mirror above the door. Thick, warped, impossible to see clearly. I hated it immediately. "Why is the mirror up there?" I asked. The nurse avoided my eyes. "So we can see you even when you think we can't." She smiled like it was a joke. I didn't laugh. You learn the faces quickly. There was Marlene, a woman about my mother's age who rocked constantly and whispered apologies to no one. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "I didn't mean to wake them." There was Rachel, who sat in the corner clutching her knees, staring at the ceiling vents. "They breathe at night," she told me once. "That's when they crawl." And there was Frank, the only man in our wing, old and quiet, who never looked at anyone's face. I sat next to him during lunch one day. "Why are you here?" I asked. He kept staring upward. "They forgot to let me die," he said. That night, I dreamed of someone else's hands covering my mouth. The checks started the first night. Every hour, footsteps passed my door. A flashlight beam slid across the small window. The light lingered just long enough to confirm I was still alive. At least, that's what they told us. At 2:17 a.m., I woke up because the light came from the wrong direction. It shone upward, as if whoever held it was crouching. The beam crept across the window slowly. Deliberately, I lay still, heart hammering. Something tapped on the glass. Once. Twice. Then a woman whispered my name. "Emily." I didn't scream. I couldn't. Dr. Halverson led group therapy. Tall, gentle voice. Eyes that never quite matched his smile. "Emily," he said, leaning forward. "Why do you think you're here?" "I hear things," I said. "What kind of things?" "Things that know I'm a woman," I replied. "Things that talk to me like they've watched me grow up." The room went silent. Marlene started crying. Dr. Halverson nodded slowly. "That's very common here." The way he said "here" made my stomach drop. It started on the third night. fingernails dragging softly across the wall behind my bed. At first, I thought it was Rachel. Then the scratching became slower, intentional. It spelled my name, E-M-I-L-Y. I pressed my ear to the wall. Something scratched back. From inside, the records room door wasn't locked. That should have scared me. Inside were shelves packed with folders. Decades of patience. I found my name instantly. Harper, Emily. My hands shook as I opened it. Admission date, 14 years ago. Diagnosis, delusional identity disorder. Subject, believes she is a new admission. Photos slid out. Me, younger, older, sicker. One note stopped my breathing. Patient remembers she is female during awareness cycles. Memory reset recommended. A breath touched my neck. They moved me after that. Deeper. The lights dimmed. This is just observation, Nurse Calder whispered. The women there sat upright in their beds, not moving, not blinking. One turned toward me. It was Marlene, but young, unbroken. Her mouth opened wide in a silent scream. Dr. Halverson visited me at 3 a.m. "You're remembering again?" he said softly. "What am I?" I asked. He smiled. "A resident," he said. "Some women stay." They strapped me down. Bright lights, cold metal. Nurse Calder cried as she adjusted the straps. "This will help you forget," she whispered. Behind the glass, women stood watching. Every version of me. The machine hummed. I woke up in room 12. The mirror warped my reflection. A nurse smiled through the window. "Good morning, Emily. Welcome to Briarwood." My wristband was clean. Patient 317. On the wall, carved deep by desperate hands, were words written in my handwriting. "You are a woman. You have been here before." Outside my door, a woman screamed, tired, endless, and I knew one day it would be my voice again.
I took the night shift because I needed the money. That's the honest truth. Not because I liked being alone, not because I enjoyed the quiet. I took it because it paid an extra $3 an hour, and at the time, those $3 felt like the difference between staying afloat and drowning. The job was simple. Overnight security at a distribution warehouse on the edge of a small Midwestern town. No deliveries after midnight. No employees. Just me, a desk, a bank of security monitors, and a lot of empty space. The manager told me during orientation, "It's boring. You'll hate it. But it's easy money." He was right about one thing. It was boring. At first. The warehouse sat in an industrial zone miles from the nearest neighborhood. One long road led in. Cornfields stretched out on 3 sides, black and endless at night. The 4th side faced a thin strip of woods that everyone pretended wasn't there. The building itself was massive. Concrete walls, metal roof, loading bays lined up like black mouths. Inside, the ceilings were so high you couldn't see the beams unless the lights were fully on. At night, most of the lights stayed off. My desk sat near the main entrance. I had a radio, a flashlight, a clipboard, and 16 security cameras covering hallways, storage aisles, offices, and the exterior. The first few nights were uneventful. I scrolled on my phone, drank bad coffee, did my hourly walkthroughs. Just empty space and silence. But silence can feel crowded. It happened on my 4th night. Around 2:17 a.m., one of the motion alerts chimed on the monitor. Camera 12. That camera pointed down an aisle in the far storage section, where the shelves were stacked 3 stories high with boxed inventory. I frowned. No forklifts ran at night. No animals should have been inside. Motion alerts were rare. I leaned closer to the screen. The aisle looked empty, but something felt off. The camera image flickered slightly, then stabilized. At the far end of the aisle, right where the darkness pooled thickest, something shifted. Not a full movement, just enough to catch the eye. I rewound the footage. Nothing. I told myself it was a camera glitch. Still, I grabbed my flashlight and radio and did a walkthrough. The warehouse smelled like dust and oil. My footsteps echoed too loudly. Every sound bounced back at me, delayed, distorted. When I reached the aisle from camera 12, it was empty, but cold. The air there felt colder than the rest of the building, like someone had left a freezer door open. I hurried back to my desk. The next night, it happened again. Same camera, same aisle. This time, I didn't rewind. I watched. At the very edge of the camera's view, something dark stood between the shelves. It wasn't shaped right, too tall, too narrow. It didn't move like a person walking. It leaned, like it was peeking around the corner of the shelving. I swallowed hard. "Hello?" I said into the empty room, feeling stupid. The figure leaned farther into view, just enough for me to see a shoulder and a head. No face, just darkness where a face should be. I blinked. The camera feed returned to normal. Empty aisle. My heart pounded so hard my ears rang. I didn't leave the desk for the rest of the night. On the 6th night, I found something strange. The security logbook, the one I initialed every hour, already had writing in it. Not my handwriting. Under the 1 a.m. slot, someone had written, "It watches from the aisles." I stared at the words for a long time. I flipped back through the book. Other pages had similar notes, written faintly like someone didn't want them noticed. Don't follow it. It moves when you're not looking. If you hear breathing, don't turn around. It learns your schedule. My hands shook. I marched straight to the office manager the next morning. He looked uncomfortable when I showed him the book. "That's old stuff," he said quickly. "Probably kids messing around before we upgraded security." "Then why is it in the current logbook?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just said, "If you don't like nights, we can move you to days." I needed the money, so I stayed. The footsteps started after that. Soft, slow, deliberate. Always behind me during walkthroughs. I'd stop. They'd stop. I'd turn around. Nothing. The sound wasn't shoes on concrete, it was heavier. Dragging slightly, like weight shifting incorrectly. One night, while checking the loading bays, I heard breathing. Not mine. Low. Wet. Too close to be echo. I froze, flashlight beam shaking. "Who's there?" I whispered. The breathing stopped. Then the radio on my belt crackled. Static. A voice whispered through it. Distorted. Layered. Wrong. "Don't turn around." I dropped the radio and ran. On my 9th night, I saw it clearly. Camera 7, office hallway. A tall figure stood at the far end, hunched to avoid the ceiling lights. Its arms hung too low, almost brushing the floor. Its head twitched in small, jerky motions, like it was listening. It faced the camera, faced me. Slowly, it lifted one arm and waved. I slammed my chair back and fell to the floor. When I looked again, the hallway was empty, but every camera monitor now showed the same thing. Me. Sitting at the desk, from different angles, watching myself. Behind me, in every feed, stood the figure. Close. So close its head brushed my shoulder. I screamed and yanked the power cord from the monitors. The room went dark. Something laughed. I barricaded myself in the security office. The door rattled softly, then harder. Something scraped against it. long nails, testing the material. A voice spoke through the metal. It sounded like mine. "Come out! You forgot to finish your rounds." I covered my ears. The lights flickered. The door bent inward slightly, like something heavy was leaning against it. Then everything went quiet. Dead quiet. Minutes passed. Hours. When morning came, the door was untouched. The manager found me curled under the desk, shaking. I quit that day. I moved towns, got a new job. Day shift only. I threw away my uniform. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I hear footsteps in the hallway and my phone lights up. Security camera notifications from a building I don't work at anymore. The camera 12, motion detected. And every time, the thumbnail shows a tall shape leaning toward the swammer, watching, waiting.
I took the night shift as St. Agnes because nobody else wanted it. That was the first red flag. St. Agnes Medical Center had been officially closed for nearly 10 years. At least that's what the public thought. In reality, part of the hospital had been reopened, not for patients, but for record storage and research archives. Old charts, microfilm, sealed evidence from investigations nobody talked about anymore. They needed overnight security. Just one person, me. The pay was good. The job description said quiet, uneventful, minimal activity. I was told I'd mostly be sitting at a desk watching cameras, making a few rounds. I didn't ask why the previous guard quit. I wish I had. St. Agnes sat on a hill outside a small Pennsylvania town, surrounded by trees that grew too close to the walls. Ivy crawled up cracked brick like veins. Half the windows were boarded up. The rest stared darkly into the night. Inside, the air smelled like antiseptic that never quite went away, mixed with dust and rot. Old hospitals have a smell that's hard to describe. It clings to you, makes your throat tight. Only the first 3 floors were reopened. The rest were sealed off, locked, power shut down, or so I was told. My desk sat in the former ER lobby. A bank of monitors showed hallways, stairwells, storage rooms, and the exterior. I had a flashlight, a radio, and a set of keys labeled only by floor numbers. The supervisor who trained me, a man named Collins, lingered too long at the door when he left. "If you hear voices," he said casually, "ignore them." I laughed, thinking he was joking. He didn't laugh back. The first few hours were quiet, too quiet. Hospitals are never silent, even abandoned ones. Pipes knock, walls creak, air moves, but St. Agnes felt held, like it was listening. Around 1:30 a.m., one of the cameras flickered. 3rd floor, west wing. That wing was supposed to be empty storage, rows of shelves, no reason for movement. The feed stabilized. A wheelchair sat in the middle of the hallway. I frowned. I knew that hallway had been empty earlier. I rewound the footage. At 1:12 a.m., the hallway was clear. At 1:13 a.m., the wheelchair was just there. No movement, no rolling, no push. Just present. I stared at it for a long time. Then I heard it. A wheel turning behind me. I spun around, heart racing. Nothing. When I looked back at the monitor, the wheelchair was gone. The intercom system wasn't supposed to work. Most of it had been disconnected years ago. At 2:47 a.m., it crackled to life. Static hissed through the speakers. Then a voice. Soft, female. "Hello?" I froze. "Hello?" It said again, louder now, confused, afraid. My hands shook as I grabbed the radio. "Who's on the intercom?" I asked. "This is security." Silence. Then the voice returned, closer somehow. "I can't find my room." Cold spread down my spine. "No one should be in the building," I said, forcing my voice steady. "Who are you?" A pause, then, They said I could go home after the night shift. I unplugged the intercom. The voice continued anyway. Around 3 a.m., I tried to distract myself by organizing paperwork left at the desk. That's when I noticed a manila folder sitting on top of the cabinet. It hadn't been there earlier. The label read, Patient, Ellis, Martha. Status, admitted, night ward. My stomach clenched. St. Agnes hadn't admitted patients in a decade. I opened the file. The photos made my skin crawl. Martha Ellis stared blankly into the camera, eyes sunken, lips cracked. Notes filled the margins in frantic handwriting. Patient reports hearing footsteps at night. Claims staff are watching from doorways, refuses to sleep. States, they don't leave when they die. The last page chilled me to the bone. Time of death, 2:52 a.m. I checked the clock. 2:52 a.m., 5 minutes ago. Behind me, something exhaled. I don't know why I went up there. Curiosity, fear, some stupid sense of responsibility. The elevator didn't work, so I took the stairs. Each step echoed too loudly. The third floor lights flickered weakly, casting long shadows. The West Wing smelled different, colder. The wheelchair sat at the end of the hallway again, facing me. I didn't touch it. I didn't step closer. Then I heard footsteps, bare feet slapping softly against tile. Slow, dragging. A shape emerged from a doorway. A woman in a hospital gown. Her hair hung in clumps. Her feet were blackened like she'd walked through ash. She didn't look at me. She looked past me toward the stairs. "They're late," she whispered. "Who?" I croaked. Her head turned too far. "They come at 4. The lights went out. Emergency lights flickered on. Except in the far end of the hallway where darkness pooled thick and unmoving. From inside that darkness came whispers, dozens of them. Men, women, children, all overlapping. All night. Still waiting. Shift never ends. They said we could sleep." Something moved in the dark. Tall shapes. Thin ones. Wheelchairs rolled. Beds creaked. IV poles rattled. I backed away slowly, heart pounding. The woman in the gown stood between me and the stairs now. Her face was closer, wrong. Her eyes were stitched shut with black thread. "They're watching you now," she said. The whispers turned into chanting. The lights above me shattered. I ran. I slammed into the security office and locked the door. The monitors exploded into life. Every camera showing hallways filled with patients. Not walking, standing. Facing the cameras, facing me. Some had no faces. Some smiled too wide. Some lay on gurneys that scraped forward inch by inch. The intercom screamed, "Shift change!" The door shook. Hands pressed against the glass. Too many hands. The radio crackled. Colin's voice came through. "You weren't supposed to go to the 3rd floor!" "What is this place?" I screamed. A pause. Then quietly, "They never discharged them." The lights went out. I woke up on the floor. Sunlight streamed through broken windows. The building was silent, empty. Police found me hours later. They said no one else was there. They said St. Agnes had no 3rd floor on record. They said Martha Ellis died in 1976. I quit, moved away, never worked nights again. But sometimes, around 2:52 a.m., my phone buzzes. Unknown number, no sound, just a voicemail, static, and a soft voice whispering, "I can't find my room."